This time I'd like to call to order the meeting for a hearing on a public hearing on financial integrity rating system of Texas. Brendan?
Yes, sir. So, to start off, this is a celebration presentation because every year we get rated by the CEA based on our finances, financial data, the strength of the district as far as fund balances, our long-term debt, our enrollment. There's a lot of factors, and so it started in 2001. There's been multiple changes throughout the year, and actually the last legislative session they had some other changes. So I'm going to walk through it. What the first is our as a financial integrity rating system of Texas. It was put in place by the 77th legislative session in 2001. Basically, the primary goal of Schools First is to achieve quality performance in the management of school district's finances, and utilizing our resources, and make sure that we're using the resources, especially with the complexity of the finance system that Texas has set up. And so there's a lot of marks that we have to meet, and we have to meet those marks, and we get a score based on those marks, and I'll go through those. We have to have a public hearing once we get our score back, and they rate you based on the 4 things. Basically, you pass or fail, 70 passes. And then from there, you have different tiers that school districts can meet as far as the standard, and Superior being the top. So I would like to first start off, as we go through this, that we did get a Superior rating.
Yay!
So that's great news. And what TA uses, which has changed, before it was 15 indicators, so last year, Donna Schwer's actually delivered this to you all, and there was 15 indicators that we had to meet. When the previous legislative sessions changed it to 20. So there's some new indicators. There's some indicators that our community will be cautious about as we go through COVID, and a lot of that has to deal with enrollment, ADA, also revenue versus expenditures. And so because of COVID, we're looking to the legislators to take a look at those and make sure, because some districts got hit really hard financially by COVID, also on ADA enrollment. And so those are indicators in the first rating that could cause you to lose points. And so we scored a 94 out of 100. As I go through, I'll show you where we didn't get the maximum points, but we did get a 94, which we needed a 90 to get a Superior rating. So I'm going to jump into the questions and go through the questions pretty quickly. And if you have questions, stop me. The first question is basically, did we do a audit, a external auditor come in, and then as we did the audit, we turned it in on time to TEA, which we did. We made that mark. And so we submitted on time, so yes, we got full points for that indicator. The second one is as we did the audit, did the auditors come back with any findings? Did they have any opinions against the district? And this data, I want to make sure I point out, this is your 1920 data. So this is the first year of COVID. You have to remember, in 1920, we started the school year, regular year, and then we went into COVID. And so this is what, for some reason, they go back almost a year. So we're looking at 2021 first rating, but they look at your 1920 data. That's the set of data that they have a full, complete set on. So I should have said at the beginning of it. And so we had no audit or material weaknesses in our audit during the 1920 school year. So we got a score on that. Was the school district in compliance with the payment terms of our debt? Did we pay our bond payments on time? And did we have enough money to make those payments? And we did. And so we got a yes on that indicator. Number 4, did we make all our payments to all the outside entities that we have to do business with, like Teacher Retirement System, the Workforce Commission, the IRS? And so we made all our payments on time. Indicator 5 is not being scored this year. It deals with something that's impacted by COVID, so all districts got their pass on number 5, so I'm not even going to go into it. Number 6 deals with fund balance. Did our fund balance change by a certain percentage over 3 years? This will hurt you if you lose a lot of fund balance over 3 years. And so we had actually grown fund balance and had a steady fund balance, so we got all the points for this. And so we have enough to cover our 3 months expenditures. We actually have more to do than that, but we had to meet that 3 months expenditure. Number 7, was the number of days of cash on hand and current investments enough in the general fund to cover all our expenditures? And so that means all our revenue, all the cash that we have, and all our investments, we have enough money to make sure that we cover all our expenditures. And we have about 6 months worth at any given time. Number 8 was the measure of current assets to our liabilities ratio sufficient. And so yes, we have great asset to liability ratio. And so we received all 10 points. This one actually was worth 10 points, so was the previous one. Number 9, did the school's district general fund revenues equal or exceed expenditures? That means did we spend more than we made? And so we met that, and so we got all the 10 points on that. And so you have to have at least 60 days of cash on hand at any given time, and we always have that at least in our bank. Number 10, did the school district average less than 10% variance when compared to your budget revenues versus your actual revenues? And so when I create a budget and we get it adopted at the beginning of the school year, remember that's money that we're projecting that we might get through the year. And if that changes and you have a 10% variance, let's say I over budget 10% by 10%, we would lose points on that. And so we meet that because when we're projecting it, beginning of the school year and the way it ends, we're really close to what we projected. Number 11, was the ratio of long-term liabilities to total assets for the school district sufficient to support long-term solvency? And that really deals with our debt, yes. Based on what we raise in general fund and based on our population, we received 8 points. This is where we have a little bit, the most districts. This is a harder one when you start looking at long-term debt, because if you know our debt, we've got a lot of bonds lately. Number 12, was the debt for $100 of assessed property value ratio sufficient to support the long-term debt solvency? So are we raising enough taxes on the INS side to pay that bond payment every year? So yes, we made that one, and we got all the possible points, 8 out of the possible points on that. 13 was the school district's administrative cost ratio equal to or less than the threshold ratio. This is the indicator that determines how top-heavy a district may be. And so districts that have a lot of central office employees score really low. And we got 8 points out of this one. My first 2 years, we actually were only getting 6 points at this indicator. So we've actually gotten better, especially as we've grown. We put a lot of those assets or resources on campuses. Number 14, did the school district not have a 15% decline in students to staff ratio over 3 years? And this is the one that deals with people that got impacted by COVID. They're looking at your attendance and your enrollments and seeing if that's going down. And so we received all 10 points because we haven't been impacted by that at that level. 15 was the school district's ADA within the allotted range of the district's biennial pupil projections. And so before every legislative session, myself and district staff, we try to project the next 2 years of what our enrollment and what all our special pops, what that might be. And so we have to, when we give that to the state, because the state takes those numbers and actually creates a budget for us, and they have to take all those billions of dollars and allot them to all the campus schools. So they ask that for us, and so when we actually have a year, they compare what we gave them 2 years ago to what's happening right now. And this is also another one that we just need to watch, because the projection that we did back 2 years ago, maybe is a lot different, because probably at that time it was like 14,000 I was projecting enrollment for 2021, 2022, but that was pre-COVID. So we'll be looking at the state to give us maybe a pass on this until we get out of COVID, basically because all districts are faced with these enrollment issues. 16, this is our PEMS data. In our financial report, did all the documentation, the materials in our audit match what's in PEMS in our submission, and so we met that indicator. 17, this goes back to the auditors. They looked at our internal controls, our procedures, all our policies, all the things that we do to make sure that we function and we don't have fraud. They come in and they investigate, and they're completely external. They go through all our paperwork, and we had no material weaknesses in our internal controls. Number 18, the external auditor also looked at all our grants to make sure that we're in compliance with all our grants that we have across the district, and so we got all the points for that indicator. Number 19, did the school district post the required financial information on our website? We make sure that we do that for every year, and so we got possible points on that. And then the last one, if you remember, before they changed taxable values to current year, we used to get that little bump when our tax value went up, and so there's an actual indicator that I make sure I share that with y'all at every budget presentation. So as I'm going through budget in early summer, I always talk about how they've changed to taxable values for current year, so that we're not going to get that one-time bump by taxes going up. So we passed that, and we passed that indicator. There's some additional disclosures that are required. In 2007, they changed the law to make sure that there's new reporting requirements that go along with the first public hearing. The first one is to share where you can find the superintendent's contract. And so I put on here, it's on the website, and I want to just make sure that everybody knows where you can go to find that. Also, we have to disclose reimbursements received by the superintendent and board members. Each board member has their own special code that we code all the expenditures to. So we track those, and these expenditures are reimbursables, and most of it's into memberships, technology, or your cell phone service. And you'll see these numbers are actually lower in previous years because this was COVID. So in the fall, well, we went to TASB. In the spring, we really didn't go anywhere. So we have to disclose those reimbursements. Also, any outside compensation that the superintendent receives has to be reported. We have none that was reported. Any gifts given to our executive officers, superintendent, and board members have to be disclosed. Nothing to disclose at this point. Any business transactions between the school district and board members have to be disclosed. We have nothing to disclose to the district. And to finalize the public hearing, this is our 19th year in a row to get a superior rating. We're very excited. It's really has to do with the whole group, starting with the school board, the superintendent, and then throughout the finance and business department, people putting hard work in, making sure we have the right people looking at the right documents, making sure we have the right procedures in place, and when we find any issues that we fix them right away and have corrective actions. And so people take a lot of pride. I'm proud to be kind of the leader of the division, but I have really good people, so I'm not standing here saying it's anything that Brendan did, it's a whole group of people, and so if there's any questions that I can answer at this point.
Also, at this time, are there any public comments or questions? Sir? Sir? Go ahead.
I just want to commend Brandon and his team. You know, this is 19th in a row, and man, he can really run through this stuff, right? Brandon becoming very astute as our leader in business and finance. So congratulations to him and his team and to the board. The 19th consecutive year of superior rating is nothing to not be proud about, so we are very proud and very happy for our business and finance department. Way to go, Brandon.
The board's still waiting for the first check.
Yes, sir.
And going forward, sir, do you have any concerns in the future aspects of going forward for our next audit?
Well, I think that there's a few things. We just went through our audit, and the auditors will be here tonight. That's another celebration. We have some things that we need to look at. There's always things that we need to strengthen within our procedures. The thing that is going to impact maybe our first rating will be looking at this year, if we're running a deficit budget, you lose points by not having enough revenue to meet your expenditures. Some districts face that, and you lose points there. Enrollment obviously will be something that we have to keep looking at, because when districts start spending more money than they have, then that impacts all of this. It'll impact everything from credit ratings to a lot of, when I do a bond sale and refinancing, they really look at your fund balance, they look at your enrollment, your ADA, and they look at your financials. So we do have some things to clean up that we could do a better job of. We always can, and we'll work on those for sure.
And I just want to state to the public that this is just something that we're going to have to deal with going through COVID. And so that way it's not something that we're going to hit a little bump in the road. So
That's it, sir.
Thank you. Close that meeting at 5:44. We will now call the order, a public hearing on ESSAR 2 and ESSAR 3.
Yes, sir. We have
Lord.
Ms. Frances Barcia, who's been leading the task force and really creating the plan that we've been able to implement in our district. And there are some modifications to the plan, so we're doing this in a public meeting. You'll see it later on reflected as one of our board agenda items as well.
Brandon is so good at his job, he allowed me to do this for him. And so we are here today to have a public hearing about the changes that are needed or the amendments for ESSAR 2 and ESSAR 3, which are federal grants. Anytime that you have a federal reserve, especially with the new COVID funds that are coming out, you must have public input. So you have the survey and that is in front of you. It's the one with the big red lines. We had over 895 responses to the survey, and so you're going to see some of the results. This gives you a preview, a reminder of what the amounts were. We had $14,664,502 for ESSAR 2 and $32,934,389 in ESSAR 3. We were allowed to backdate that all the way back to 2020. So here we're going to talk to you about some of the amendments that we need to make based on the needs that happened after students arrived back on campus. Just to remind you, anything that was spent in ESSAR 2 or ESSAR 3 needed to fit one of these criteria: learning loss, a targeted intervention, operations or continuity of services, a CDC mitigation of any sort, leadership or well-rounded education. So as we go through the plan, I'll go through ESSAR 2 and ESSAR 3 separately. Just to let you know that there was consultation. This was not done at the top level. This was done at all levels. We had parent input as per the survey. We had staff input, which is also on the survey. And then we did hold 2 public meetings with parents in the spring of last year to get the majority of these line items in place. And then we also had an email open to them so parents could drop anything into the email if they wanted to, if they weren't able to make a meeting. At this time, I'm going to show you the amendments to the plan. I would like to highlight that I'm going to show you the entire plan because it's been a while since we've seen these grants, and this will put us back into all of our thoughts. If it is written with regular font, then it's not a change. It was already approved. If it is bolded and underlined, it is being added, and it has a strikeout, then we're removing it to change the funding source. At this time, we have the items for ESSAR 2. This is the one that we received in September and August. So this is probably fresher in your head than ESSAR 3. And so in there, we have high-impact tutoring because we had the 45-45 that we needed to make sure that all our students made their hours and their time and to support the learning loss. We have a plan for students that are 5 years of age to 11 years of age to make sure that they had a virtual learning opportunity and general ed homebound for some of our students who qualified medically. We also wanted to make sure that we provided instructional materials, textbooks, and technology support and consumables to the campuses. And then we had a summer acceleration program, and that will occur for the next 2 years for that. In operations and continuity of services, you will note that we pay for payroll costs. Because we lost ADA, we need to make up some of the costs missing from that, from some student enrollment. So you will see that we've added funds. You'll see that we crossed it out under personnel, meaning that we did not have to pay for extra health services. That's in ESSAR 3. So we were not needing the extra support there. So we went ahead and moved the funds up. So you'll see that it was added. But you'll see that I added $500,000. That's $250,000. The $250,000 is on the next page. For CDC mitigation here, same thing. We were going to add more health services to do contact tracing. We didn't need that. Our numbers are very good. They're very healthy. So we were able to move those money up to cover salary costs. We will still continue to pay for any CDC mitigation that we needed, including gas, sanitation machines, and make sure that we have water services and everything that students need to feel safe and healthy while they're on our campus. In addition to that, we had targeted services, targeted interventions, which included flexible furniture so students could sit in different types of grouping. This is mostly for elementary, but it does have some sections for other grade levels. You'll see that it's not grade level specific. And in addition to that, we wanted more outdoor play. One of the things that the parents wanted was to make sure that kids were able to go back outside and be able to work outside in the fresh air and have something purposely done. And we're going to, you saw the plan for that last time. In addition to that, we have a special needs program that we've identified funds for. And that has not been specified yet, but there's funds for that. In addition to that, we wanted to build more foundational reading and math opportunities and provide transportation for kids that needed it after tutoring. So that's usually a cost that campuses pick up, but since we've lost a little money in title, this will help cover the cost of any transportation that we need to make sure kids can stay at school or come on Saturdays and attend any type of tutoring opportunities that is available for them. And then here we have our well-rounded education for leadership, which is $115,000, which we've paid for to allow principals to have some training on how to get back into the swing of school and the differences that we'll need to have an equitable future. So very few changes because this is the one that we did in September. Now we're going to ESSAR 3. And so you'll see more changes here, so I'll highlight them as we go. In ESSAR 3, we had learning loss for elementary. I'm going to go faster because my time is running out. I'm going to notify you about the changes. If you look at the bottom square, you'll see that at one time, the parents' number one thing was that they wanted reading, students to go back to reading, go back to reading. What we have found out is learning loss stretches beyond reading to also math. So we wanted to add the math component to it. So there is programs and competitions and incentives that we wanted to allow campuses to do to get kids motivated back into reading and math. So in the elementary, that was the switch there. For middle school, same thing, we added the math component and incentivizing some of the contests and competitions, especially as we get ready for our winter break, to make sure there's no learning loss that happens during that time. For high school, they decided not to buy the AR reader because a lot of kids don't use the AR reader for points. But what they really wanted, and you will see also in the survey, is parents wanted kids the opportunity to learn the core content and make sure that they have their credits because they want them credit ready. So this provides them the opportunity to do any type of tutoring program or credit recovery and pay for any books, any materials, travel, transportation, anything that kids need to get them ready for graduation on time. In addition to that, the one that I want to show you that was crossed out at the bottom was the air-conditioned buses. TEA allowed us on the FAQ to put in air-conditioned buses as a way of providing better airflow to kids. We already have another grant for buses, so we're covered in doing that. But the federal government has now come out and stated that if we buy buses and they decide next year not to pay for them, that will have to come out of our local funds. We did not want to risk that because we already have another grant, so we moved that back up to payroll costs to help make sure that we're allowed to cover any kind of payroll costs that we may have with the loss of enrollment. For CDC mitigation, we did not change anything here because we have a lot between ESSAR 2 and ESSAR 3, so this was left alone. And you'll see on the bottom, the health services personnel was covered, that was taken off from the other one. Right here, you're going to see social emotional. The only change that we made here is that we find a need from all the campuses that they would like some presentations to students about social emotional well-being and teachers to get them on the right page, get them in the right mindset. So we wanted to make sure that we put some assemblies and student presentations in there for them. Targeted interventions had no change. You'll see the other part of that is the outdoor play, and that will help cover elementary and middle school. The last one is well-rounded education, and the only change on here is a couple of words. We had a summer program for fine arts, but we have new programs that can be year-long for fine arts that we're trying to invest in, and this will give us the opportunity to spend that money all year long and not just for summer. And those are the changes that we have going right now. As far as the grant amendment, we will come back with any other grant amendment. We have to review these every 6 months. So you will see this, a type of public hearing for the next 3 years, every 6 months.
Yeah, I want to say, because I want to thank Francis, I know she's going to go a little helping us through this. As you see in our plan, it's very fluid and flexible as things change. You know, we put a lot of money in PPE and safety coming back. We bought a lot already, and during the time period we put that money in there, we were going through some peaks and high peaks of COVID. And as we get in the spring and how things might change better in a better direction for us, we may come back and use that money to spend on other things dealing more with learning loss. And so that's really, tonight is really short. There's not a whole lot of changes to but we have to go through this process every time we want to make a change in the grants.
Board members, any comments or questions? Hearing none. Public, this is your opportunity to have, if you have any questions or comments. Hearing none, I hereby close this public hearing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We have 5 minutes before we start the meeting. Okay, I have 6 o'clock. Call the regular meeting to order for the month of November. Wow, November. Okay, at this time, I'd like to begin with invocation and pledges of allegiance.
Yes, sir, we have Mr. Roger Campos, who's going to lead us in vote.
Please bow your heads. Dear God, we seek your help with our affairs today. Bless this meeting with your divine intelligence and help us to make the best use of our own. Please share a little of your wisdom with us to help us do right by all concerned. Thank you for your heavenly blessing. May each one of us be inspired to respond to the opportunities for better serving our fellow man. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Campos.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, I believe we have some recognitions today.
Yes, sir, we're really excited to recognize some of our students from elementary, middle, and high school, and I do believe we have a few other recognitions. We have a visitor from CPS Energy with us, and then we have a special announcement about a very engaging and fun event that's coming to a wintry neighborhood near us in December. And so I would like to turn it over to Mr. Campos, or?
Actually, Jenny's going to help me.
All right, and we will begin our recognition, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hidden Coast team is proud to recognize Arturo Vallejo as its Student of the Month. The 6th grader is described as a standout leader. He maintains excellent attendance and AV honor roll consistently. He is a member of the inaugural HCSA Chief Science Officers Program, the HCSA Safety Patrols, and the 6th grade LEGO Robotics team. Arturo is a STEAM project participant in Campus PBL for designing outdoor learning spaces that will exemplify the school's mission statement of creating innovative educational experiences which meets the needs of modern learners. Congratulations.
Good job, Arturo.
Congratulations.
Everyone's going to stare at you.
8th grader Carlos Trevino is Resnick Middle School Student of the Month. In addition to being an A honor roll student and a fantastic member of the Journalism Club, he is also a valuable member of Resnick's cross-country team. Just last month, a coach from another district wrote a letter stating that he was impressed with his sportsmanship. Carlos was seen helping and encouraging another student finish a race. His teachers and coaches describe him as a natural and authentic team leader who has it all: grit, integrity, and is the definition of a true teammate. Congratulations, Carlos. The Student of the Month for Southwest Legacy High School is senior Alessandra Ramon. She is described as an exceptional young lady with a strong academic record. She is dedicated to her chosen program of study, education, and training. She's involved in the organization's Texas Association of Future Educators and Family and Career and Community Leaders of America, which she holds an officer position. She continuously finds ways to be a leader on campus. Alessandra embraced an opportunity and a need when she stepped into a vacancy on the homecoming King and Queen ballot. She campaigned,
Good job,
gave it her
Alessandra.
all, and won the title Princess, representing the FCCLA organization and all of the CTE department. Alessandra has charisma, poise, and most of all, motivation to succeed. One day in the near future, she would love to come back to Southwest ISD and teach at Sky Harbor Elementary. Congratulations to all of our students.
Here, and smile. Your mouth. 1, 2, 3. With your eye. There you go. Hang on right there. Any parents that want to take a picture? Guardians?
I'd just like to mention, we're always extremely proud of our students of the month and what they represent and how they're selected by their principals and staff on their campus. And so this is a really great validation that you guys are making really sound decisions and putting yourself in leadership roles and being great teammates. And so we're really extremely proud of you. And I would like to ask if we have any family members of our students of the month. Because behind every student of the month is family of the month. With our family members, would you please stand and we recognize our parents, grandparents, brothers. Would y'all please stand as you And we'd also like to recognize our principals who are represented from the 3 students that we have up here, Arturo, Carlos, Alessandra. So, with our principals, would you please stand up and let us recognize you? So, unless either of you want to say a few words. Congratulations.
So we're gonna one more. We're gonna do Blue Santa next. We don't have CPS here, so we might have to hold on to that one, but that's okay. So as you can see, we are coming up to our Blue Santa Festival and Parade. So for many years, the Southwest Communities and Action Coalition has worked together with law enforcement, community agencies, Southwest ISD and South San ISD to celebrate and pay tribute to public servants who put their lives on the line to help keep our community safe. South San will host the Blue Santa press conference announcing the official event on December 7th at 9:30 a.m. at the Five Palms Elementary School. Everyone is welcome to attend. On December 11th, Blue Santa will ring in the holiday season when he arrives in the SAPD Blue Eagle helicopter at Millers Pond Community Center. He will then lead a parade of City of San Antonio officials, Bexar County officials, special guests, community and school district representatives, and organizations located near Old Pearsall Road for approximately 2.5 miles. A holiday celebration will follow at Millers Pond Community Center. The parade is scheduled to start at approximately 10 a.m. We hope everybody comes out to that.
No Blue Santa today.
And normally, this is when Blue Santa would come.
I was waiting.
We're on still COVID kind of protocols.
I
Okay.
will say ho 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 if you want me to.
We didn't have Roger go put on a blue suit.
Do we know if they're gonna follow the same route as normal?
I do believe so. We haven't heard any different. I think Victoria is here.
Is the parade the same route? It is the same route.
We found a route that works and they're sticking with it.
Yeah.
It seems to.
Ms. Gallardo, what time do you want us there on Saturday? Okay.
Just remember that traffic is crazy getting in there, so.
Yeah, they do close off the.
And we'll get more details. We normally try to meet at transportation and we try to get everyone in. We'll have the Toyota Tundras there and
Okay.
we'll have everyone.
Thank you. Okay, I understand CPS is not here yet?
No.
Okay, so that's all for now, and we can come back to it, because it's a check, so we'll take it.
We'll take it.
Okay.
That's it for today.
Palmetto, anyone signed up? Okay. At this time, the most exciting part of this meeting has happened. So all of you that have been recognized tonight, you're welcome to go home. You're, welcome to be excused. Thank you for coming out. You don't have to stay for the rest of the part of the meeting, okay? Thank you again. We'll take a brief break. That little boy's eyes are so wide open.
I need some. Chipotle flavors, I don't know what, like, my stomach open, I'll just.
Okay, we'll continue with the meeting now. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Items 5A through F. Board members, you've had that?
I have a question on that. So on page 16, we're approving an overnight trip, but it says boys softball. It should be girls softball or boys baseball?
It's boys soccer and then girls softball.
Girls
Girls
softball
softball at College Station and boys soccer.
and boys soccer, okay.
around here.
Just so we can fix it on the minutes. That's my only question.
Okay.
I own that.
That's okay.
Gosh, I read each one too, so I missed it completely.
We'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion now?
I move that we approve the consent agenda with that one correction.
I second.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with a friendly correction. With a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Now we have, I believe, items of information. Construction update.
Yes, sir. Tonight, Mr. Barajas is going to come give everybody a quick update on some of our ongoing projects.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start with the Aquatic Center presentation. Right now, we have Joris General Contractors and Monmouth Architects doing this project. As per our last pay application, we're about 57% complete in this project. One of the items that we have discussed is the original substantial completion. This project originally was set for April 10th. However, as we have discussed, items, delays in materials, delays in labor and procurement has pushed this project a little bit further out. We're not ready to come here to y'all and commit on a date, but as of right now, everything that we're looking into, it shows that we're pushing to June, early June for substantial completion. Now, Joris is doing everything they can on their end. They're not advertising this to their subs, so as far as their subs know, the deadline is still April. However, we know there's really substantial things, paint, overhead doors that were 4 to 6 weeks, now they're 20 weeks out. So fortunately, it's items that we have no control over, but we just wanted to come and be forward with that information. But on a positive note, I passed out the presentation on it. The building is taking shape. The roofing is being constructed. All the trusses are now 100% complete. We're about 90% in structural. CMU is ongoing, MEP systems. The pool equipment on all the pool equipment is now on site. The actual Mertha pool for the instructional is now erected. So once we get to have you guys out there, you'll see the panels that are going on the instructional pool. And here are just some images of the interior. As you can see, CMU blocking and roughing for mechanical units. These are some views of the admin on the second floor as well as the deck of the pool. So they're not stopping. They're going and going on all the areas that they can begin work and have material. So we're just progressing as much as we can on this project. Does anybody have any questions on the Aquatic Center? The next one will be our middle school track project. we'll start with Resnick, because that's the furthest out. The surfacing has now been completed. The only thing that's pending on this project is the removal of the layout area on this section, as well as the final striping and marking. All the irrigation, temporary irrigation has been set. All the turf has been completed. So in the next couple of weeks, we will be striping and marking this track. And substantial completion is set for December 3rd. At McNair Middle School, this picture is actually from last Friday. As of yesterday, the track surfacing is now complete as well. So it looks just like Resnick does. The striping will begin the week after Thanksgiving break. At McCullough Middle School, all the asphalt, rough grading, and sod has been installed. Temporary irrigation has also been installed. On this one, the track surfacing has now mobilized, and they're going to start surfacing this one middle towards the end of this week. And this one is also substantial completion on December 3rd. On Scobie, though, this is the one that's furthest out. We're going to bring an action item to y'all later on to move the substantial completion on this project due to several causes, having another contractor on site, permit delays, as well as material delays in this project. But other than that, they're going to start doing the curb forming and the asphalt in the next couple of weeks. Now, one of the delays is once we lay the asphalt, it has to cure for 28 days before we can surface that track. So the bulk of that delay will be just the track asphalt curing. Any questions on the tracks project?
Looks good.
Sorry, and lastly, this one's gonna be quick too, but Transportation Department renovation. This one, the exterior painting is now complete. We're moving over to the fueling station. Mechanical upgrades and systems are being installed. This is the third open bay that is now gonna become their tire shop. All the units, the HVAC units upgrades for the office spaces are now on site and are pending completion. The structural components for the new canopy on the bus wash station are also continuing. We do have the bus wash system on site, so that one's been procured and ready to be installed. There's just a lot of things that need to happen before that gets erected, plumbing, electrical components, but at least the bulk of that system is on site and ready. Any questions on the transportation?
I have a question, not on the transportation. Can I ask it on the natatorium? Because I just thought about it. So if the doors are, the overhead doors, right, they're out, you said 4 months, three or 4 months. So how are they going to secure the building? Because we're not just going to wait 3 or 4 months for the inside. So what are they going to do?
So they usually write a contract to a vendor, and that's how they do it. Now, this vendor's coming back with saying, now it's 20 weeks. So they're looking at other options, whether getting those doors from somebody else or looking at another alternative. Still the overhead doors, but maybe not that specific manufacturer. So they're looking around to see what the best option is.
Okay.
And not a 20-week.
So we're not
period
just,
will be.
I mean, I know
Yeah,
they'll
our
find
plan is
something,
not
but,
just to wait,
okay,
so.
all right. Thank you.
And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, monthly tax report, financial report, investment report, Brandon?
On the tax rate, we're starting over, we're in the next tax year, and so we're just at 2%. Usually we'll start seeing an uptick in tax collections in early January and February, it's usually tax time for tax payers.
Board members, any questions on those 3 items? Okay. Report on gifts and requests, you've had before you, the enrollment report. Am I reading this correct? I mean, the font's really small, but are we only down like 200 kids? Is that right now? Less than 200 kids, actually? Okay, thank you. Review on purchases over 50,000. Board members, stop me if you have a question. Calendar events. DEC local policy update. Who's up?
Yeah, that's me, sir.
Okay.
Uh, Under DEC local policy, that's our policy on leave and deals with compensation. Currently, we have a policy that allows the district to pay out leave on a retirement, or at the end of the year, it deals with local leave. If somebody accumulates their leave and doesn't use it, we pay out a certain rate.
Cash up.
And this is really for, most we pay out is really to retire. And so, under board policy, the employee shall receive payment for each day of unused local leave upon retirement at the data rate of a pay of a substitute for the employee's position. And that's our current practice right now, and that's what's in policy. What we're going to ask the board to do is change that rate, or change policy to say to pay at a rate established by the board, which is we keep the same rates. The issue that we're running into, to kind of explain it, and that's what we're paying right now. So right now, if you're a professional staff, you're getting $125 because that's a certified teacher rate. And if you're a support staff, you're getting $70 because we have certain support staff that have the sub, and that's we're paying them $70. Where we run into issues is we have a lot of employees that don't have a substitute. So if you look at our policy, it says that we should be paying out their reimbursement rate at their sub rate, but there's a lot of, like directors, we don't have substitutes for them. And this really started to play a role in, okay, as you're going to see tonight, we're going to try to get aggressive with rates, with substitutes, because we see that other districts are moving. We don't want this to be an unintended consequences towards the budget. So we'd rather get the policy changed to reflect really what the practice is that everybody, the professional gets this rate, and everybody on support staff gets this rate. Have the board approve that, and we approve that every year in our compensation plan, instead of being at whatever the sub rate is, because we do have a lot of employees that there isn't a sub rate for them. And so the question comes in, do I get this rate, will I get this rate, what rate do you use for me, especially since I don't have a sub rate. We also, for the first time over the last couple of years, we set a principal rate. But we were still paying the certified rate for those individuals when they retired. But you can call that could cause an inequity where principals getting that rate set by that principal because they have an employee that had that substitute rate, and everybody else that's not a principal is getting the teacher certified rate. And so we just want to clear it up and make sure that we have practice and policy aligned. And so this is just kind of to talk about it with you all, and then I'll bring it back to you all, and then we'll actually bring a rate to approve. And at this point, I would say we're going to keep the current rates that we would do in our normal practice, not change those unless you would want to, we can revisit it. And I can kind of give you an idea of what we spend a year when somebody retires. We have 100 days that we are paying out at the sub rate, and so and as we're getting into this time of year, we have people in January that are going to retire, people in the school year, so I want to make sure that we have this finalized before we have it.
Can you also get us the information of what Northside does, Somerset, anybody around?
Correct, I pulled all that because I
Okay.
wanted to see what we were doing, and I think we're the only one that says employee sub rate. Everybody else has a district adopted rate.
Okay.
And I would say that I don't have everybody's what they're paying, but I think that we're doing pretty well with paying out those comparable to the districts. I got the same question from the boss.
Okay.
Brandon, do we have a certain number of days accumulated that, the limit for it, or?
We don't limit, other districts do, some districts limit, we only pay 3,000 or we only pay up to 60 days. Our policy just states that if you've been here so long, you have to be here so many years within the district. And then you have to follow the procedures to turn in your paperwork early. The idea is that we compensate them for the days that they let us know earlier, because if they show up 2 weeks in January and say, hey, I'm retiring as a principal, we'd like to know a little bit ahead of time. So there's a process in place, if they let us know a little earlier, that they go through and they meet.
So there is no use it or lose it at all?
Well, there is a use it or lose it, it's certain leave, but not your state and your local.
Okay,
At
so
the
there's a
end of
difference.
Yeah, so we have, for some employees, there's what we call, I don't want to say vacation days, but it's non-duty work days. That's a use it or lose it every year. Those are, we don't pay those out. But your state and your local leave, the thing about state days, if you work for school districts, you take them with you. So if you leave here and I have 50 days and I move over to another district, I take my days with me. Local leave is what we give them also on top of that. Those are the things that we pay out if you stay with us. So there's difference in that aspect. Any more questions? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Okay. Next, we have policy 118 update.
So we have before you today a first read for the update for policy 118, local. And so Nathan's going to go through them for you, and there's a lot of them. So we're going to make this short and sweet. And you do have a PowerPoint in front of you that gives you just a clean view of what those updates are.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you all. I'm going to be presenting the first reading for the TASB Board Policy Update 118. Update 118 is going to include 12 local policy updates requiring board approval. That will also include updates to various legal policies that are embedded in there as well. This will be a first reading for you all tonight. The first one is CFD local. This is addressing accounting activity funds management. And so the big change with CFD local is just clarifying that student activity funds are those fundraised and collected by student clubs and organizations. Approval to spend those funds rests solely with the student organization or club, and disbursement, management, and approval will be by the principal and sponsor. And so as far as we know, this is a practice we are doing currently in our district. The next one is CQB local, and this has to do with the cybersecurity and the cybersecurity training. And so based on two House bills, well, one House bill and one Senate bill, House Bill 1118 and Senate Bill 1267, the superintendent will delegate or nominate a cybersecurity coordinator that is trained each year. And that cybersecurity coordinator is then responsible for determining who in the district will receive that training. If there are any breaches involving student information or anything that would be a cybersecurity breach, the cybersecurity coordinator would investigate on behalf of the district and report out according to the laws. DFE local, this is TASB recommending a revision to the policy, giving the superintendent or other person designated by the board action the authority to accept resignations. So revisions to this local policy and resignations are guided by a recent Commissioner of Education proposal for decision. And so based on the relevant statutory wording, a contract employee's resignation effective at the end of the school year must be filed with the Board of Trustees or the board's designee. So the new recommended text would be that if a contract employee provides a resignation to a supervisor who has not been designated by the board to accept resignations, the supervisor would then instruct the employee to submit the resignation to the superintendent or other person designated by the board. So it has also clarified that the superintendent may delegate authority to accept at-will resignations to other administrators. DP local has to do with school counselors, and so it mandates that, in accordance with Senate Bill 179, it mandates that the board adopt a policy requiring a school counselor to spend at least 80% of their total time, their time working on a comprehensive school counseling program, or CSCP. And so if the board determines that because of staffing needs in the district or at the campus, that a school counselor cannot spend 80% of their work time on that, then the policy must address further details regarding the counselor's duties. So there is, on the next slide that I'm going to provide here, they've provided a sample job description in the event that we do not have any of our counselors that are working less than 80% on a CSCP. but at the current time, all of our counselors are working at least 80% on that. EHAA local. This has to do with recommendation from House Bill 1525, the human sexuality curriculum materials. And the policy basically follows the steps required by the law, including board adoption of a resolution to convene the School Health Advisory Council, or SHAC, that will hold meetings and make recommendations to the board at public meetings. So we do have a sample exhibit that TASB has provided in the event that we need to use. It is there for our use. EIE local has to do with retention and promotion. So the update here is to update outdated provisions on grade advancement testing, and this is due to House Bill 4545. The statement about eliminating the practice of retaining students is recommended for deletion, as it is only needed if a district operates an OEYP, or optional extended year program, under Education Code. So accelerated instruction is now addressed in EHBC. EHBC local special programs, and the recommended revisions here, again, based on House Bill 4545. It directs our parents with any grievance or complaints about educational plans to refer to board policy FNG, and that's our policy that deals with grievances or complaints. The update also explains that parental requests for a student to be assigned to a particular teacher following a student's unsatisfactory performance on a grade 3, 5, or 8 math or reading assessment shall be handled in accordance with district administrative procedures. FDE local is an update to text in this particular board policy. It's a change from House Bill 375, which amends the offense of continuous sexual abuse of a young child or children to include continuous sexual abuse of a disabled individual. So that's just a wording change that's been made there. FEA local has to do with a new provision from Senate Bill 289 that created an optional excused absence for a student who is at least 15 years old and wishes to go obtain a learner license. So they get 1 day of an excused absence. And so there's a sample form for students to verify that absence that we can use at the campus level that's been provided to us. And then they've also streamlined the other absences that are listed there, specifically higher education, armed services, and early voting. They've reduced those to single statements about what that type of an absence would look like. FEC local is attendance for credit. This is from House Bill 699, the 90% attendance requirement. It creates an exception for absences resulting from a serious life-threatening illness or related treatment. So again, TASB has provided us some samples, letters to notify parents of student absences, which have been updated to reflect this. Administrative details on documentation of student illnesses have been included also in the model handbook. And provisions on the attendance committee's consideration of the best interest of the student, extenuating circumstances, and conditions for awarding credit or a final grade have been revised and reordered to emphasize a student's mastery of the essential knowledge and skills and maintaining a passing grade rather than assigning a student to attend programs for an amount of time to be equivalent to the student's absences. FFG local, this has to do with student welfare. Recommended revisions to this policy are based on House Bill 3379, and it's just changing some wording there. The standard of reporting child abuse and neglect, the original wording was cause to believe, they've changed it to reasonable cause to believe. And so there's also a reference in FFG now of the definition of a person responsible for the care, custody, or welfare of the child. That's been added for clarification. FL local has to deal with student records. So they replaced the reference of the grade placement committee is now, again, in accordance with House Bill 4545, that wording is changed to accelerated learning committee. So the grade placement committee was before, and now it's been changed to the accelerated learning committee.
Nathan, going back to the one before that,
Sure.
what is the difference between, like, how is it going to affect our teachers if it goes from cause to believe to reasonable cause? Is that going to give them more, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't report that, or what?
We believe that's probably a lower standard, but that may be something that we can reach out to TASB just to get some clarification on as well.
Because I almost think reasonable cause to believe might lead people to not report it as opposed to cause to believe. I don't know. If I'm looking at it, I just think maybe we might want to word that a little bit differently so that we're not insinuating that.
We discussed this particular, that specific question earlier, and we believe it provides the teacher who makes the point of contact more protection.
More protection,
But we will
okay.
definitely confirm when we come back to bring this for an action item at our next meeting.
Well, I mean, if that's the reasoning behind it, I just don't want it to be like a hindrance. I don't know. It just strikes me a little like we need
have to
to.
go to the House Bill 3370?
Yes, there
Okay.
should be some,
Okay.
and that's what TASB does.
Right. I just want to make sure that we're, okay.
Absolutely. Great, and in sum, that is the recommended board policies, recommended for update under board policy 118. And I'd like to open it up to any questions, if you all have any questions, other questions at this time.
I have a question on DFE local termination of employment resignation. And in going forward with what's the recommendation? I see how it says designated by a board action. So are we gonna have to have say, I know Dr. V is the person, but is there gonna be another person that we would have to delegate in coming to us as an action to make sure that that person's allowed to set that, say it's her or any of those people up there?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure that's relevant.
It used to be superintendent designate, which inferred superintendent designated as deputy in our case. Now we have to bring that to the board to give it a year, or approve or not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you all very much.
Okay, Blue Santa has already been covered. Alto Promise 2021. Who's up?
Yes, sir, we have our good friend, Gil Becerra, from Palo Alto College, who's going to bring us more information around Alamo Promise, and we expect to bring this to the board, some of our data. I don't know if it's included in Gil's presentation, when we get into our December brown bag to show you what it looks like today for the future 2022 graduates of Southwest ISD. And so we'll turn over to Gil. He's a really great partner at Alto College. He knows Southwest ISD really well and has helped us out in a lot of situations. So,
thank you, Dr.
Gil
Verstedt.
Becerra.
Yes, thank you very much. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Verstedt, of course. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm Gilbert Becerra, Vice President of Student Success at Palo Alto. So it's good to see everyone again. And here I'm just here to do a little bit of information sharing about where we currently are with Alamo Promise, and just to kind of provide a little bit of a refresher on it. We've kind of changed our approach to work harder to engage more students with the process. So this year, up to this point, we've seen 142% growth year over year for the pledges that have made students eligible or partly eligible for Alamo Promise, which is a thing that we're very, very excited about. And again, Alamo Promise, right? 2 years of tuition-free education for students, and this includes special tuition for nursing programs or special tuition for automotive repair programs. And it's been extremely successful thus far. From Southwest ISD, we've seen over 250 students that have taken advantage of it, and we're approaching about $275,000 to $300,000 in tuition and fees from these first 2 cohorts of students that they've saved they haven't had to pay out of pocket. So it's been a huge boost to students and families. The program, of course, eligible to any of the Alamo colleges, all 5 of our colleges. We're kind of in a fierce battle with Northwest Vista for your students, right? Half of the students go to Northwest Vista, the other half come to us. Again, all 300 programs that we offer within the Alamo colleges, all of the institutes, all the endorsements, all the level 1 certificates, level 2 certificates, students can take full advantage of these programs through Alamo Promise. And again, we've seen a lot of success. Just a little bit of information about where we currently are this year with your 2 high schools. And I see Mr. Black. Thank you again, Mr. Black, for all your access to your schools, and Dr. Burstev for giving us access to both the high schools. So Southwest High School, that's over 70% of the senior class has completed a Save Your Seat, which is step number 1. It's an online pledge that students are allowed to complete. Legacy, over 92% of students have completed the Save Your Seat pledge. So that's really the first step in the process. Steps 2 and 3 are the completion of the Apply Texas application and the completion of the FAFSA-TASFA. They have to complete those 3 items, the Save Your Seat pledge, the Apply Texas, and TASFA-FAFSA. If they complete that by February 28th, they're guaranteed funding. After February 28th, it's kind of on space availability, so we're working very hard to achieve those 92%, those 95% now, so that we're not rushing in February to get that done. So we've had we couldn't do it without partnerships with schools like Legacy and Mr. Black and the entire team of professionals from Southwest ISD that just have the doors open for us. So again, we really appreciate the support. The scholarship program, of course, it's a last dollar scholarship. And just to kind of explain that, students submit the FAFSA, of course, they're evaluated for aid, they're awarded a financial aid package. And if there's any gap in their financial aid package, Alamo colleges, along with our partners, right, City of San Antonio and all the different groups that contributed, jump in to fill that gap so the student has no debt at all. So again, it's been very, very successful, and it covers the cost of all tuition and specialized fees. So again, we're working hard to once again hit that number, and these are the 3 steps. Students can access it through our website. We have a QR code. We also have a specialized toolkit on our website that has the same presentation in case you all are members of other boards or other organizations, or you'd like Palo Alto to go speak and talk about it. We'd be happy to do that. But again, our goal is to have 100% participation throughout all of our Southside partner schools. But again, we have a really, really great relationship with Southwest. Last year we had over 85% of the students. Now we're at over 90%. So again, we hope to have another over 90% at both high schools, and make sure that we have as many students exposed to the program as possible. Do y'all have any questions or anything I can answer regarding Alamo Promise at all?
I have one.
Sure.
How is this Alamo Promise good? Because we have 2 schools, but we also have the 3rd school, Castem. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, I do. Glad you asked that question. Dr. Burstev has really been a big advocate for including Castem. So we're working with our district partners. I recently spoke to them, and we're speaking with our legal to determine how we can maneuver to have Castem added. It's a little bit tough mid-cycle, but we're still having that conversation to see if it can be done. We've got to look at several different things. We look at socioeconomic status, first generation status of the schools. That's kind of our first kind of run at eligibility. But then the other part is the funding model, right? So that school wasn't initially included in the funding model, but we're working really hard to see if we can find funds to make sure that we can have those students participate. So that's something that's been kind of top of mind really recently. And I just spoke to Dr. Burstev about it. So at an event we had at one of the high schools. So it's something that we're looking at, we're pursuing. They told me, our district partners, that we should hopefully have a decision around December. So hopefully in December, we'll have some additional information as whether we're able to move forward or not. But it is something that we're strongly advocating for because we know that those students need the same kind of support as the rest of the Southwest.
And I've been told it's leaning favorably.
Good. Excellent. Yeah, I know you've been talking to Stephanie and Dr. Flores, so it's something that we want for Southwest ISD, and so we've been pushing from our end as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Have a great night, and I appreciate the time on your agenda. I know it's very busy.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7, A and C will come back to after closed session. B, consider voting by resolution for the Bear Appraisal District Board of Directors. To give a little history on this, Of those listed on here, the only returning, if elected, would be Sherry Byram, whom for the last, I know, what, 4 elections we've given our votes to. Just to give a little history and how this works, it takes about 650 to 700 votes to get elected, and in the past, Bexar County has always gotten 1 representative. The city has always gotten 1 representative. And if you look at their votes, Bexar County 647, city 914, north side 1,072, northeast 743. So those 4 are pretty much locked in. Whoever they nominate or vote, give their votes to, will get in. 4 elections ago, through Bexar County Coalition and the assistance of our superintendents, we came up with a representative for schools, and it's been Sherry Byram since then. And people like Northside gives us a couple hundred votes, because they only need 700. Judson usually gives us their votes. People like Edgewood, Somerset, and then that's how we've gotten Sherry Byram. And we've talked to her. I know Lloyd and I have talked to her, and she's willing to do it again. And she's done really well for us. She's chaired the committee at times. So with that said, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we, Chair Bob.
I second.
A motion's been made to give Sherry Byram our votes of 78. There is a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Item C. No. Item D, consider approval of Southwest ISD Scholarship Committee recommendations. Jesse?
Yes, we've had our first scholarship meeting. We normally have a fall and the spring meeting. We are a recommending committee. I want to take all your information. So Jesse's done a really great job of taking ownership of this committee and coalescing. We had a great conversation the other day, and so we're going to bring to you some items today for board action.
So good evening, board members. Thank you for having me. Over the last 6 years, I've had the opportunity to be part of the district scholarship committee, be the liaison that comes back and brings those recommendations to you. So what we do every year in November, we meet. When we meet in November, we determine if there's any updates, any changes that we need to be made based on any changes that we've had over the course of the year or as an improvement from the year before. And then in the spring, we meet again to make the disbursements for students based on the number of students who apply for the scholarship and then qualify for the scholarship, and then we make those disbursements in the spring. So this year, we met on Thursday, we met last week, Thursday, November 11th, and the committee was looking at how we were going to make some changes based on adding 1 more high school. So a few years ago, we added Southwest Legacy, and now we're adding Cass STEM. And so as part of that, the committee made a recommendation that night, and that they'd like to share with you all, that we move from doing disbursement packages in the spring where we would do students who would receive possibly a few students who got 3,000, a few that got 2, a few that got 1, to 1 amount that's an equal amount for all students based on all 3 high schools. So we would open it up to all of the students who want to apply for the scholarship, and then we would take the total number of students who qualify, and then we would divide those students amongst the money that we have available. And this year, that total amount of dollars would be about $165,000. So we can't say what that disbursement amount is going to be per student yet. It would depend on the number of students that we have to apply, and then we would take all of those students who applied and then divide it by that number. And so the committee recommended moving away from doing those disbursement packages that we've done in the past before. They feel this way they'd be able to help more students with a larger amount of dollars over time. And so that was one of the recommendations they made. The second recommendation you have is we always meet to update the committee. We had quite a bit of movement last year, and so we had quite a bit of folks who moved to different places or moved out of the district. So you have a list of the updated district scholarship committee members and who would be a voting member and who would not be. So these are the 2 recommendations that the district scholarship committee made on November the 11th, and so we're bringing those to you tonight for approval and discussion.
I think it's important to mention that includes a CASTM principal and the lead counsel like the other 2 high schools. So that's the addition, some of the changes as well.
So we did add the principal from Castem, and we did add their lead counselor. And you can see what roles they play and which folks are able to vote. And so that made our committee meet just a little bit larger than it's been in years past by adding Castem. And so over the last couple of years, we've added Southwest Legacy, and now we've added Castem.
So are they still, I haven't been on the committee in several years, but are they still, in the past, have they been still writing the essay and stuff?
Correct.
So there will be no essay this year?
We will be keeping the essay on there as a
But it's not,
it will not be
not
shown in the
graded
force
or
ranking
whatever.
that we normally do that breaks it up so that we're able to draw up some of those packages. And so we bring those disbursement packages to you in the spring, and it's been more difficult as we've added more kids.
Right.
We have anywhere from 125, 30 kids who apply to as many as 250 kids who apply.
Right.
So every time you give those bigger amounts at the top, the amount at the bottom shrinks quite a bit. And so it's gotten down as low as about $500, and we know that's not a large amount, but for any student going to school, that is a very helpful amount.
Right.
And so if it's possible to make it an equitable distribution across the board, we think we could help with more kids with possibly more dollars as well.
Okay, and then also, since we have the Alamo promise, right? Technically, a student wouldn't have a balance at
Right.
Palo Alto, right? So do we still require that they present a school bill to get their money? Because they wouldn't need it
Right. So-
unless we make a thing where we just give it to them, their books or a laptop or whatever they're gonna need.
For the students who would be receiving Alamo Promise, and that's a great question, Ida, we have been advising them to basically put in for the Alamo Promise dollars and not pull from these dollars just yet. So as our kids go take advantage of the Alamo Promise dollars, and then they transition over to a four-year college and they start their junior, senior year, then they come back and ask for those funds. So they've got 5 years to pull those funds. So even if they go back after 2 years, 2.5 years, they can still draw from these funds and have them available to use when they move into the four-year university, so that they don't use them up over there, because it is a last dollar scholarship.
Right.
So if you come in and give those funds first, then they're gonna take them, then you won't have them junior and senior year.
Right. So then my other question would be, has the committee considered giving them that money for books? Okay, so say I get free tuition to go to Palo Alto, and then my books cost $500.
Right.
I don't have $500. So have we considered just giving it as a scholarship and not, like, if they just show us that they're going to college, they're registered for their classes, all that stuff, since we're not looking at $4,000 anymore, say we're looking at $7,000.
Right.
Have we considered just giving them a $700 check to use towards a laptop? Because they're going to need a laptop.
Sure.
Maybe some people can't afford one. So I would like the committee to consider something like that, as opposed to getting a free, if they're going to get the 2 years free, then in the third year, hopefully they're going to remember to come back and get that other $700. But in the meantime, they could have used it for whatever school expenses that they have.
So we didn't have that discussion this fall. It's come up in the past before, because we know that's something that students who wind up in certain situations could use those extra dollars. But when we meet in the spring again, I can bring it back to them and we can make a decision on that. I know Dr. Christian's on the committee.
I just want to add, we really want to engage in the conversation around accounting. There's a reason that we're only cutting checks to the bursar of the university, the college, and it had to do with something to do with accounting. I cannot remember, it's been a while now since we started this, but if we do that, we find out that is not the case, we will definitely have the conversation. Understand, we are a recommending committee, but
Right.
complete decisions up to this board of governance.
And
And we never had that, because on my mind, there was something that led us that said that was going to
I remember
maybe
that,
break his
too.
superior rating for 19 years.
Can't remember if it was IRS or.
Yeah, it has something to do with that,
or
but
something.
we need to go back and
We'll look
get that
into it.
information.
Well, I'm not the expert, I'm just
Yeah.
a mom
And in
that
that
has
case,
to
the
pay
Alamo
for it.
Promise doesn't, the money, it's already paid through the
For
Alamo
college.
Promise. We send a check to the bursar, everything's covered, that check comes back to the kids
Well,
anyways.
it would cover all of them. So we would have, if we did it that way, we'd have to write the check directly to the student.
Yeah.
in
No,
order
no,
for
no,
them
I
to
mean,
use it.
once
But-
the Alamo Promise is paid and then the money from the school comes, usually what's ever left over, and that check comes back to, what's ever left over, the school issues the money back to the student.
The way I understand they would use it is if they qualify for that money and we send that money to their account, then that money gets applied to their account. So because it's a last dollar
Yeah.
scholarship, it would still be applied to their
Yeah.
account.
Because I
So
know
they
that
wouldn't get a refund back.
last year with Daniel, the money he had got, Alamo Promise was paid, So then Palo Alto never gave him a check back for what was left over.
Yeah, that's what
And that was
usually
usually
happens.
was the money that was left over from it.
But okay, gotcha.
We may have to look into that, what he's saying.
Well, I just remember that one year, one of the students that got the scholarship, the mother called me because she had gotten a full ride to St. Mary's. So her bill was zero. So when they presented the bill to the scholarship committee, or whoever they didn't get their money because they didn't have a bill.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, we do have students that does affect. So however we can fix it to litigate the problem,
I don't know, Mr. Carrio's example is a good one. Usually if you write that check back to the district and they have a zero balance, that money will go back to the student in the refund. It should. That's the way it normally works.
I'm just saying.
We can definitely take it to the
Okay.
committee and discuss. But I do know that there
Not
was an
unless
issue
it's
with
a,
the county.
not unless it's a private school. Sometimes the private schools, initiate the funds first for scholarships before they apply like grants and stuff like that.
Right.
So they use those scholarships up first, so.
Every higher ed group is just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse.
Yes, sir.
Okay, at this time, there's a recommendation to the board.
I move that we approve the scholarship committee's recommendations.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. The board approved the district scholarship committee's recommendations for equal distribution of funds per student. Additionally, that the board approve updated DSC members for the next 3 years. Any further discussion?
Since we're on the committee, do we recuse ourselves from it?
No.
or- Okay.
It's not advantageous to you.
Okay. Making sure.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Jesse. Okay. Item 8. Consider approval of an increased substitute pay rate.
And I have Will Hunter here to give you some information about what is our plan for helping making sure that our sub rate is competitive.
Good evening, President Bosco. Good evening, board members. One by one, our neighbors around the county are raising their sub rates. In order to stay competitive with them, we are going to propose tonight that we raise our substitute rates by $25 for each category that we have. So you'll see in front of you that would put a certified sub in our district making $150 a day. We think that will be competitive enough to hold on to our current sub roster.
I move that we approve that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. The board approve adopting an increase in substitute pay according to the rates suggested above. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item 9, consider approval of 2020-2021 district financial audit.
Yes, sir. Tonight with us, we have Derek Walker. He is from Coleman
I was wondering where you're
Company.
sitting here.
He's our third-party external auditor, and so I'm gonna let him go over our audit.
President,
How you
members
doing?
of the board, Dr. Burton. Thank y'all for having me tonight. For the weird year last year, I didn't get to see her one person, so it's kind of hard to see expressions. So, like Brandon said, I'm here to present your fiscal year audit for the 2021 school year that had a year end of August 31st, 2021. TA requires that every school district in the state of Texas have an audit on their financial statement. This audit needs to be done within 150 days as of the district's fiscal year end, which is January 28th for y'all. So, and it also has to be done by a certified public accountant, which is me in office. So by doing that, y'all are fulfilling that requirement from TEA. If you'll, do y'all have your audit books handy or there's a
Yes,
computer?
sir.
So if I give you a page number, you know where to go.
Yes, sir.
If you'll turn to page 4, I'm going to keep this kind of brief, so let's be very informative. If y'all have any questions, let me know. So this set of financial statements, this is the district's representation of activities during the year. We do assist the district with preparing those.
get them ready, just with our expertise and make it a little bit easier with them. There are 3 things in this audit report that are ours though, and these are the opinion letters. And on page 4 starts our main audit opinion. This is the opinion on the district's financial statements. And it briefly states that we audited the district's financial statements using accounting and auditing principles generally accepted in the United States of America. We did this with the objective of seeing whether or not the district's financial statements presented fairly in all material respects the operations of the district as of August 31st. And we believe, in our opinion, that they do, also known as a clean or an unmodified audit opinion. So it's the highest level of assurance an auditor can give on said financial statements. There are 2 other reports in the back. I'm not going to have you flip to them. So anytime a governmental entity receives federal awards, they're supposed to have an audit on their internal controls, compliance, and other matters. And then if the district receives over $750,000, they're supposed to have an audit on their major federal programs. Both these audits were clean or unmodified opinions. So good job as far as that's concerned. I like these audits because, especially when there's no findings, issues to report, it makes my job a lot easier. Your management, your staff do an excellent job. They converse with us during the year, any kind of issues that do come up, so there's no surprises on each end, and it helps for a more efficient audit at the end of the year. So to go over a couple numbers, I'm an accountant, I like numbers rather than public speaking, but if you'll turn to page 23 and 24. This, in essence, is the district's income statement for the year. And what it does, it presents the operations of the district, gives you what the total revenues and expenses were for the year, and then also the change in fund balance and also the ending fund balance. So in that first column on page 23, that first column has your general fund. Your general fund is your main operating fund. It collects your taxes and also pays out salaries, expenses, and et cetera. Looking down 4 lines from the bottom, there was a net change in fund balance of $3,983,418. This left the district with an ending general fund balance of $82,898,180. Your debt service funds in that second category, just going over the changes, debt service fund increased $465,000 during the year, leaving it with an ending fund balance of a little over $3 million. Your capital projects fund, that decreased $32 million, leaving it with an ending fund balance of $27 million. Now that sounds big, but let me explain that a little bit to you. So when a district issues bond money, say I'm just throwing some numbers out there, say they issue a $100 million bond. Well, in the year they issue that bond, that fund balance goes up $100 million. And then when the district starts spending that money on improvements or whatever it is, that fund balance goes down just, for the amount that was expended during that year. So we see that change going on. On page 24 is your other funds. This includes your food service, your child nutrition program, your Title I, any kind of funds that don't meet a certain requirement that's being reported as major, we lump them all together. There is a schedule on the back, if you care to go look, and you can look at each fund individually. But your other funds had a decrease of $811,000, leaving those other funds with a $1.9 million fund balance. Overall, for the whole district, that last column, total fund balance went down $29 million to give you an ending fund balance of $115 million. So looking at that $115 million fund balance, if you'll turn over to page 31, so fund balance is, in essence, if you take your assets, pay off your debt, and that's your fund balance. That's your net worth is what it amounts to. But out of that $115 million, some of this is designated, assigned, committed, or it's in non-spendable aspects. So if you look, out of that $115 million, $645,000 is in inventories that the district has on hand as of August 31st. 3,064,837 restricted for debt service. There's 27 million of unspent bond proceeds that are designated for capital improvements. There's some federal and state restrictions of 1.5 million, and then also the scholarship fund has a $1.7 million restricted fund balance. Throughout the years, the district has also committed funds. As for future construction needs is roughly 18.3 million. Infrastructure needs, almost 9 million. And then campus activity funds, which is 169,000. So the second line from the bottom, your unassigned, undesignated, uncommitted, unrestricted fund balance is 53,549,000. And that's big numbers to us individually, but when you look at the district and their total expenses, that's roughly, what, about 3 months of operating expenses, Brandon? So. Last page I want to go over is your general fund budgetary comparison schedule. You'll turn to page 60. I have all night. I can keep on going.
No, you don't.
So real quick on page 60, this is your general fund budgetary comparison schedule. That first column is your original budget. That's approved before the start of the fiscal year. And then I'm sure y'all had some budget amendments over the last couple of meetings. So that second column is what your total budget amendments, your final budgeted for your general fund balance. And then the third column is your actual amounts. Fourth column being your variance between actual and your final budgeted amounts. 4 lines from the top, you can see that total revenues came in, I'm looking at the far right column, 2,174,000 more than what was anticipated. Of that, your local and intermediate was 640 less than what was anticipated. Big factor in that is property taxes, collection rate, whatever that may be. Your state program, that's your foundation money, that was up 1.4 million, or was 1.4 million more than was anticipated. And then your federal revenue, the government was throwing around money everywhere last year. And that was 1.3 million more than what was anticipated. Total expenses, three quarters the way down. They came in 15,918,000 less than what was anticipated. It was a hard year as far as budgeting and planning wise. With COVID, with the way the federal government was throwing money around, with the way TA was taking state money and they're going to replace it with federal money. So it's been a challenging year for us as auditors, and I know that for y'all staff. So kudos to them. They did a great job this year. Like I said, it was a clean audit opinion. We appreciate the opportunity to help you fulfill that compliance requirement. Any of y'all have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we recommend that the board approve the 2021 district financial audit.
Board members?
I move that we approve the 2020-2021 district financial audit.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second that the board approve the 2020-2021 district financial audit as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, now we have the certified tax roll.
Yes, sir. If you remember, we had appraised values come in July. As they work through all the protests and they get closer to September, the board is required to certify the taxes for the 2021 fiscal year. And so our certified value came in at 4.5 billion. And so I'm asking the board to approve the certified value as required.
I move. A motion
Second.
and a second that the board approve the 2021 certified tax roll as submitted. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Can you share real quick what it was your first year? You shared it with us earlier.
2.3 billion now, my first year, this is starting my sixth year now.
So 6 years, we doubled, huh? Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome.
Okay, consider approval of ESSAR 2 plan and amendment.
Yes, sir, we're asking the board to approve the ESSAR 2 amendment as presented tonight.
I move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second that the board approve the submission of the ESSAR 2 amendment for the 2021-2022 school year. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. ESSAR 3.
I move, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, ma'am.
No, I move that we approve ESSAR 3.
I second.
We have a motion that we approve the submission of ESSAR 3 amendment for 2021-2022 school year. And a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Consider approval of change order number 2 for the middle school track projects.
Yes, sir. After, I know everybody was privy to Mr. Bronx's presentation earlier about the middle school tracks. All 3 tracks that Resnick, McCullough, McNair are on schedule. But we do have Scobie that's going to be behind schedule, and we're asking the board for change order number 2 to change the substantial completion date to January 31st, 2020.
I move.
I'll second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second that we approve change order number 2 to George General Contractors to add 66 additional calendar days to the contract time and extend the date of substantial completion to January 31st, 2022 for the Scobie Middle School Track Project. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Consider approval of the 2021-2022 capital improvement projects.
Yes, sir. At the previous brown bag, district staff presented a plan to move forward in 21-22 into facility subcommittee also this money plan. We have 3 levels of money that we're working out of. One is going to be our ESSAR funds, and I also attached the plan that we shared with you all. Some ESSAR funds to do some things around campuses to help with just different environments. Fund balance to do some maintenance work, some purchases that we need to do for some bigger projects like the natatorium. And then bond proceeds that as we're finishing up all our projects that are coming to the end, like Southwest High School renovation, Scobie Middle School, and then even the middle school tracks, when we start getting those funds back, so that we can proceed to start pricing. We're just asking the board to approve this formally as a plan, and then we're going to go out and vet and get pricing and probably do RPs and bring these back. If they come over 50,000 any project, over 50,000, we still bring back for approval. But we just wanted kind of a green light, a formal plan, and get it so that we can have this back and start moving.
I move.
I'll second.
We have a motion.
Daniel, second. You just did.
Oh, Daniel, second. My apologies, Daniel. That we have a motion and a second. The board approve the recommended 2021-2022 capital improvement projects as presented. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item G, before we begin discussion or open it for discussion, I need to clarify some items on considering approval of joint election. Okay. First of all, Lord, do you want to make a statement before I begin?
About this item?
Yes, other than our guest here, about our guest here.
I know there's some questions about, I believe, the previous regular scheduled board meeting about the motion to table, the non-discussable, and so I have reached out to our legal counsel because we want to make sure we're always above reproach, we're doing everything right. And so joining us here is Mr. Tony Resendez, who's worked with us for many occurrences in the past, so really great to reconnect with him. So, Mr. Resendez is here if we have like any legal questions or optics. That way we can help kind of facilitate the process.
Okay. Welcome, Tony. And with that said, I want to begin by also want to make sure that I was right, or that everything was done right last meeting. So I also made some reaching out phone calls to TASB Legal. And TASB Legal punted me to the head chief parliamentarian of TASB, David Kempel, because it's a procedural issue, not a legal issue, okay? So therefore, I'd like to start by explaining a few things, okay? The motion to table does require a second, is non-debatable, and does require a majority, okay? Because the item was tabled and was done correctly, in order to take it back up, required is a motion to take from the table, okay? Which also requires a second, which is also non-debatable and also requires a majority. If and when that happens, then we can entertain any motion on the item. To include a motion to postpone to a specific time, which also requires a second, which is debatable to the issue of postponement only, and requires a 2/3 vote. Because we are 7 members, that is 4.67, so I'm going to call it 5, okay? Then the other issue which may or may not come up, if any of this reaches any type of debate, is to call the previous question, okay? Which I was asked about. And to call the previous means bringing whatever motion is on the table to end debate and go straight to the vote. That also requires a second. That is also non-debatable, and that requires a majority. If it passes, we go straight into the vote of whatever motion is on the table. If it fails, then we continue debate. Any questions on what I just explained only?
Where did you get that information from? Who informed you of that?
TASB. And you can look it up in any Robert Rules
TASB
of Order.
parliamentarian?
David Kempel, to be exact. And you can look it up in any Robert Rules of Order. Is there anything that I said that you disagree with? Tony?
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Tony Resendez. I'm one of the attorneys with Walsh Gagos, who've been your general counsel for several years, and I appreciate the opportunity to come. I will start by saying, and I've been doing school law for a long time, working with boards and superintendents, Lloyd from years ago, before he was superintendent. But just to clarify, there's a difference between, as you mentioned, TASB legal punted it because it's not really a legal question, it's more of a procedural question. And procedurally, the Robert rules in your local policy are designed to help you facilitate your board meetings. Legally, there's also, if you look at your policy BE local, it talks about Robert rules, and there's supposed to be a guide. But there are times where those Robert rules, on the technical language of Robert's rules, don't always fit with a particular issue in front of a school board. So there, we use it as a guide, but then there are times where we do what, at the end of the day, legally, majority rules, legally. Majority makes the final decision. Now, I know you mentioned there's a couple of technically, for things that require a 2/3 vote, and actually I think a motion to postpone on the chart that I have doesn't require a 2/3 vote. What requires a 2/3 vote according to Robert's rules is to stop discussion, the point of...
They'll call the previous question?
Yeah, call previous question, I believe that. But I'll tell you, again, I've seen where boards will say, you know what, well, I move that we suspend the Roberts rules, and the majority suspends it, and then the majority does what they need to do.
Sir, what about the no discussion, no debate question?
That is correct. With regard to technically a actual motion to table, once you get a second, it's not debated. So he was correct. Everything he read was correct. Based on my understanding, my review recently of the rules, with the exception of that one piece. And maybe I heard it wrong. Maybe I got them flipped.
No, and you know what, I have it written between the motion to postpone and the motion to previous, so you may be right.
Okay,
And
so
I'll go with that.
That was a minor thing, but everything else, so yes, technically a motion to, so my understanding, I did look at the video, by the way, there was a motion to table, because I wanted to make sure I kind of understood what happened. And I've learned about, a little bit more about the joint election issue in general. But technically, at that meeting, that was proper. You know, there
And
was-
when you table, I thought that if you tabled, you had to, the understanding was that it would come up in the next meeting.
Well, you see, that's another good question too. It depends, but it's legally, well, procedurally, there's an issue, but then it doesn't matter because legally, it's on your agenda tonight.
Right.
So legally, if you all wanted to take action tonight, you could. But if you also wanted to not take action, you could. You know, what does the majority want to do with regard to that issue?
But
At
if
the
you
end of
don't,
the
if
day.
you don't table it, if you don't put a time on it, so it would have to be a postponement, and you have to put a time on it.
So there's a
But if
very-
you just table it, then it has to be at the next meeting.
Well, and so there's a very, you know, was the motion to table actually meant to be a motion to postpone? And I'll tell you, I've been doing this a lot of times. Usually when they make a motion to table, they just want to put it off down the road, not put it off later for that meeting or the next meeting. So I don't know what was actually meant by the motion to table. So I try to ask, okay, what exactly do you mean? Do you want to put it off to the next meeting, or do you want to put a time certain? Because sometimes they won't want to discuss it for months because they want the superintendent to do some research and let him tell us when we want to bring it back.
So there was another question that I also read that, that those are used in good faith, and that a reason for the tabling of the postponement can be, you know, should be given. There's no reason for it not to be given.
It's your individual, you know, elected officials. Just like you don't have to give a reason for your vote when you vote for something one way or the other. It's up to you personally, individually.
Right.
You know, now, should you or can you? I'm not going to say you should or can or in good faith. I mean, you guys are, you know, I'm not your priest
Right.
up here. You know, I'm your
Sure.
lawyer. So legally, it's up to you guys if you want to share a reason or not. But that motion that I heard, that I saw, that was proper.
Okay.
I mean, that was done right, and everything your board chair read, I'm not a parliamentarian, but I've read the rules, and I've been to a lot of board meetings, but I do know the law with regard to legally what this board can and cannot do.
And so,
The guidance that you got on those parliamentary rules is what I recall is correct. Yes, sir?
so
Go ahead.
so if we were to,
Oh,
if we in this.
I heard a voice, but I didn't see a
I'm
mouth.
sorry. Sorry, in going forward, if it was tabled and they asked for a vote, and then the vote was, say, you say yes, but we can also give a statement why we're saying no, because we're a statement of, because you just said that we're allowed to.
But not necessarily at the meeting, because the meeting is run by your board president, and when we voted and it's discussed, you move on to the next item. But if you want to your citizens, to your community, say why you voted the way you can, that's up to you.
So we just do that at a separate, like not
That's-
here at the meeting, but on a separate location.
Yeah, at the meeting, once an item has been dealt with, then you go on to the next item on the agenda. Now, you can make a motion for reconsideration or something, but you gotta look at, you know, you gotta get a second and, you know, you gotta go through the process. So you wanna be careful with just saying something if it's out of order, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yes.
because
And I
right
hope
now
I
I
answered
was,
that question.
no, because you said, you could give a statement to the reason why you're voting no or yes.
And what I meant by that is just in general, because she was talking about that, you're right, the Robert rules are meant, and your local policy is in good faith, we're gonna work together as a team, try to get issues done, get business taken care of. And do they have to tell you why they wanna postpone it? You know, legally, technically, you know, maybe not, no, actually, you know, it's up to you. You know, some people may want more time to think about it, or they just, whatever their reason is. Just like when you vote was my analogy. Just like when you make a vote on an issue, how you voted and why you voted, that's based on why, you know, your personal reason. And you can explain that, you know, you're elected officials. You're gonna have constituents and citizens that wanna know, and they may, in the grocery store, hey, why did you vote against that, or why did you vote for it? So my point is, you have every right, or you have the right to say, you know what, I made this decision because I wanted to. You don't have to give them a detailed answer.
Okay.
So, I hope this helps, but I'll tell you, these Robert rules, they do get technical, and I'll tell you also that there are different interpretations of these rules. So you want to be very careful. Do y'all have a set of board operating procedures? You
No.
might.
No.
We've been working on those, but then it got put on the back burner.
Because sometimes those board operating procedures can help, like,
Yeah.
if somebody is gonna, y'all agree on the rules, if somebody wants to postpone or table, let's be clear. Or, but if you want to, discuss those. If you need samples, let me know, Lloyd, we have plenty of board operating procedures that y'all could use, but I hope this helps. I know y'all are dealing with some,
We appreciate it.
some issues on this particular item, so.
Thank you,
whatever I can do to
Tony.
help. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
But that's good information he gave you, but I don't know if y'all seen the Roberts Rules, it's a book, it's,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Just to clarify, so you said since it's on the agenda, legally we can discuss it, whether it's untabled or not.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's up to what y'all prefer as a majority,
Okay.
what y'all want to do.
So, and then in going forward, in putting it on the agenda, we can't put it back on the agenda?
So that's the other thing, Robert's rules are real, technical, but legally, your local policy says anytime a board member wants an item on the agenda, you submit it, your board president reviews it after it's prepared by your superintendent, and your policy says your board president is supposed to put it on the meeting that's set, or schedule it for a near time in the future. Now, some districts will modify that because I've seen where board presidents say, well, we're going to put that in the near future, 9 months from now. And that particular board member wants it sooner. So then that's where your board operating procedures can come into play and give guidance on some of those things. Because even that policy is not, what does at a near time in the future mean?
It's big.
Yeah. It's fun. These policies. So I hope, and real quick on a side note, that other policy is meant on the teachers, the one that you asked, it's meant to encourage them, just so you know.
All right.
But they'll check it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
I wanted to jump up, and lawyers would like to talk, sorry. But I hope I'm helpful, and if you have any other questions, I'll be here. While you continue. So, anything else, let me know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, with that said, unless I have a big argument from anyone here, I am willing to waive the motion to table and not have to have it, the motion to take from the table and leave the item as an active item. Do I have, does everybody understand what I just said? Okay. Okay, so now we are at item G.
I make a motion that we postpone the vote on item G to our regular January meeting as we've done in the past.
I second that.
Okay. Now we have a specific motion to postpone to the January regular meeting with a second. Mona, do you have that written? Okay. Now, this is debatable to the issue of postponement only. Yeah, Tony? And this will require a majority vote?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, at this time, we have a motion and a second to postpone the vote or the agenda item G, item 9G, to the January regular meeting. Is there any discussion?
I would like to just make the statement that the reason that we're trying to get this voted on earlier is because there are thousands of San Antonio, City of San Antonio voters that are also Southwest ISD voters that need to know that they have to go to a second poll site to vote and stand in a second line and vote on a separate ballot if the vote goes with the City of Lytle to hold the joint election with the City of Lytle. So the effort to get this vote done earlier than what we normally do is tied up with the effort to inform the community, to have time to inform the community, to get out there and make sure that they understand the process for coming out to vote in school board elections.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to postpone item 9G to the January regular meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
No.
No.
Okay, majority has it, motion passes.
Can I request, make sure who voted, aye?
What's in the minutes? You want to do one by one?
Yeah, I didn't hear, I couldn't, sorry, but when you're.
Okay, I can tell you, you were a no, Yolanda was a no, all the others were a yes.
Okay, thank
Okay?
you.
You're welcome. Okay, item 10, curriculum instruction. Consider approval of purchase from education, ed direction.
Yes, we've been doing business with Ed Direction, and they've provided really good professional development for our district. And so now we do have our comprehensive support campuses who are requesting to partner up and provide some professional development during the spring semester. So we are asking the board to approve for Ed Direction to continue working with our campuses.
I move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second that the board approve the purchase from ed direction. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Consider approval of 2021-2022 EIC local policy updates.
Yes, we do have several updates. We have a total of 6 updates, and this is to our EIC local. Back in May, we did May of 2020, and this will be one of those updates that we will be discussing here. But in addition to that, we have brought this to the board, and this is just an update to the local policy. That when we are referring to distance learning courses, we are also speaking to the courses that are assigned to the student by the district, where it comes to dual credit in addition to on-ramps. So that's the addition that we are adding in there. We are making this revision of adding the program on-ramps to also this decision here. The second update is we brought the resolution back in May of 2020, and this is during COVID, where we decided that the students that we were not going to include any grades that were earned after the third 9 weeks of 2020, which is this COVID school year. And so that would be impacting the cohorts of 2020, 2021, and now the approval of 2022, 2023, and 2024. So back in May of 2020, it was just from TASB, the consultant, they just mentioned bring it over to the board as a resolution. So tonight we're bringing it again because now TASB is recommending that we bring it for approval. The third is also just making an edit. Previously, we used to use the word pre-AP, but now with College Board, they are responsible for the word pre-AP, and so anytime that we use the word pre-AP, we would have to pay per campus and per course a fee. So now instead of using the word pre-AP, it's honors, what we are offering, which is the same course, advanced academics, but now instead of using the word pre-AP courses, we are using the term honors. In addition to, just with the first addition that we made, now we are also making this addition to the word on-ramps into our GPA and our grading policy there. And so we are adding the word on-ramps, as you'll see in that 4th edition. And the 5th one, this is again a recommendation that instead of using the word or even numbers of 69 to 0, because even a 50 would be a 0, they're just recommending for us to just clean it up and use the term below 70. And so our 6th one, same thing here, is we are now adding the word on-ramps. And anything that is included, AP course, dual credit course, or on-ramps is something that is also accredited for a passing standard of 70. Now we do know that if a student is a 70 and above, they get high school credit. Anything below, then they would have to retake the course. But also in our post-secondary, like Alto colleges or any other higher education, they have different passing standards. So we want to make sure that any grade that we get from the higher education, that we are still following our policy standards, which is anything above 70 is passing, anything below 70 would be considered failing and no credit. So there, we are also adding the word on-ramps courses as well. And so I'm just asking the board to approve these updates, and that's pretty much it.
I move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second that the board approve 2021-2022 EIC local policy updates as presented. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion
Motion passed.
Very complex thing, very, very much consensus.
Okay. That on? Okay, one more thing, Lloyd.
So just appreciate everyone's time. We continue to work through what was probably the largest life interruption any of us are going to experience individually, collectively. It's still about kids in our district, and it's about what we do to create pathways for our kids. And so I just want to be very thankful of all of your time and everything that you guys do. We're getting into that. We get an early day out Friday because we have Thanksgiving the following week. So it's always a reminder to be thankful for what we have in our lives, to be thankful for the people we have in our lives, and to be thankful for the gifts that we leave the next generation. So we never forget that in our work. Really honored and proud to work with some incredible people. And welcoming Tony back. I haven't seen him in a couple of years. That's nice. In our Southwest family. So yeah. That and we're in 2 playoff games I downloaded on Thursday night.
Hoorah. Okay, great. Okay, with that. Okay. As permitted by sections 551.001-551.146 of the Texas Government Code, pursuant to the Government Code 551.074, in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.072, we will now go into closed session at 7:35. Good. We call this meeting back to order at 8:13. We have items 7A and C.
I make a motion that we approve the superintendent's recommendation on personnel.
I second.
We have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation on personnel. At this time, I'll entertain a friendly amendment to also include properties.
But we don't have a recommendation for properties.
I'll just discuss. There's only
We
discussion.
just discussed, we don't have, we're not voting on it.
Okay.
Right?
We're not voting on property.
Okay, then I take my friendly amendment back. It wasn't so friendly. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the superintendent's recommendations on personnel, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We have one more thing. I know I do. Do you, Lloyd? We'd like to wish a very happy birthday to Ms. Yolanda Garza Lopez. Is it belated or coming? It's coming. Okay. And Lloyd? Do you have
Are we
something
going to
else?
sing or what?
Oh.
Yes, let's sing happy birthday to Yolanda. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Cha-cha-cha. Happy birthday to you. Cha-cha-cha. Happy birthday, dear Yolanda Lopez. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
I want you to know it sounded really nice to my right, not so much to my left.
Okay.
Good, sir.
Anybody have one more thing?
In front of you, you have some important dates. There's some great activities if you're looking for events, theater at middle schools. I know we're having community conversations around vaping, making sure that we're engaging our families. There seems to be escalation of that throughout the whole state, especially San Antonio. We're not immune to it.
The kids
So
are stressed out.
if you want to attend any of those events, please feel free to
That
come
sounds
on by.
interesting.
You know how long the college night was that one till one? Legacy?
Normally 8. Sometimes we don't get everything from everywhere, even though we ask a lot. So those are important. College nights, we'd love to give that information to
It was
you.
on the side of this, one side of this.
Yeah.
College night, the fair?
Friday or Thursday? Yeah, I'm trying to vote.
Fair, no?
This is Friday?
Okay. That it? Meeting closed, adjourned, 8:16.